The elegant restaurant glowed under the warm embrace of soft golden lights. Conversations hummed in the air, blending with the delicate clinking of wine glasses and the gentle laughter of couples celebrating Valentine's Day. Ethan Caldwell sat alone at his table, idly swirling the deep red liquid in his glass, his expression unreadable. He was not a man ruled by emotions. His life was meticulously designed, much like the architectural masterpieces he created, structured, precise, devoid of unexpected variables. But tonight, fate had other plans. As he lifted his glass to take a sip, his gaze wandered across the room, and in that instant, his entire world stopped. There, sitting gracefully at a table in the corner, was a woman with soft brown hair and a radiant smile. Claire Evans. Ethan's breath hitched. 3 years had passed and he had convinced himself that she was nothing more than a memory buried beneath blueprints and relentless projects. Yet here she was, unchanged, still exuding that warmth, that effortless charm that had once unsettled his carefully structured world. But it wasn't just Claire that left him frozen in place. Seated beside her were 3 children. 2 boys dark-haired with piercing blue eyes, eyes that were unmistakably his own, and a little girl, delicate yet fierce, her round eyes a perfect mirror of Claire's. Ethan's grip tightened around his glass, his pulse pounding against his ribs. They looked like him. A cold wave of realization swept over him. 3 years, 3 children, and he had never known they existed. The tightly woven fabric of his perfectly controlled life had just unraveled in an instant. Ethan's heart pounded violently as his eyes remained fixed on the 3 children. Every detail of their faces was too familiar, too precise to be a mere coincidence. The once cozy restaurant now felt suffocating. The hum of conversation around him blurred into static, drowned out by the deafening realization gripping his mind. He couldn't sit still any longer. Ethan pushed back his chair and strode across the room, ignoring the curious glances of other diners. Each step felt heavier, as if the weight of his past mistakes had suddenly settled onto his shoulders. His pulse thundered in his ears. Claire was smiling gently at the children, tucking a loose strand of hair behind the smallest girl's ear. But the moment her gaze lifted and met his, that smile vanished. Their eyes locked, and for a fleeting second, everything else ceased to exist. Ethan opened his mouth, searching for words, but his throat was dry. His gaze flickered between Claire and the children, his mind grasping for an explanation that could make sense of this impossible truth. Finally he spoke, his voice low, strained, and laced with disbelief. "Are they mine?" The question hung between them like a live wire, charged with years of unspoken words and lost time. Claire hesitated. A flicker of something, guilt, hesitation, sorrow, crossed her face. Ethan didn't move. He didn't breathe, he just waited. Then she exhaled softly, holding his gaze with quiet certainty. "Yes, Ethan, they're yours." The ground beneath him felt like it had disappeared. Everything he thought he knew, everything he had built, had just come undone. Ethan stood frozen, each breath feeling heavier than the last. The sounds of the restaurant faded into the background, leaving only Claire and the 3 children he had never known existed. 3 years. 3 years, and she had never told him. His jaw clenched, his emotions a chaotic mix of shock, anger, and something else. Something raw and painful. Why? His voice was low, dangerous. Why didn't you tell me? Claire blinked, something unreadable flickering across her expression, a sorrow so deep it unsettled him. "I tried," she murmured. "I called. I left messages. But you never answered." Ethan's breath caught in his throat. The missed calls, the unread messages. He had assumed she was just reaching out in desperation, trying to hold on to something that had already crumbled. He had shut her out before she could even speak. A cold weight settled in his chest. This was his fault. His gaze flickered to the children. One boy watched him with cautious curiosity, the other more guarded. The little girl clung to Claire's sleeve, her wide eyes wary. 3 years, 3 children, 3 lives he had unknowingly abandoned. Ethan swallowed hard, guilt pressing against his ribs. I want to meet them. His voice was firm, unwavering. Claire crossed her arms, her brown eyes sharp with warning. It's not that simple, Ethan. They don't know you. You can't just walk in and claim to be their father. Ethan narrowed his eyes. They are mine. Claire exhaled slowly. She studied him for a long moment before nodding. Tomorrow, the park, noon. It wasn't acceptance, it was a test. And this time, he couldn't fail. Ethan stood at the entrance of the park, hands tucked into the pockets of his coat, willing his heartbeat to steady. Children ran past him, laughter filling the crisp afternoon air. This was not his world, a place of chaos, of unpredictability, of emotions running free. Yet today, he had no choice but to step into it. And then he saw them. Claire was walking toward him, her posture composed but guarded. Beside her, 3 small figures moved in sync. Lucas was the first to notice him. The dark-haired boy with bright, curious eyes grinned and bounced on his feet. Mom, is that the guy from last night? Claire sighed. Lucas, we talked about this. Ethan crouched slightly, offering a small smile. Yeah, that's me. Lucas tilted his head. Who are you? The question hit harder than Ethan expected. He glanced at Claire, but she remained silent. This was his moment. He turned back to the children, his voice steady but gentle. I'm Ethan, and I'd really like to get to know you. Lucas squinted at him as if measuring the weight of his words, then gave a small nod, an unspoken, okay, we'll see. But Noah was different. The older boy stood with his arms crossed, his deep blue eyes, Ethan's eyes, studying him with quiet suspicion. Why are you here? Noah's voice was sharper, more guarded. Ethan swallowed. Because I wanted to meet you. Noah didn't respond, but his expression said it all. Why now? Why not 3 years ago? Ethan knew earning his trust wouldn't be easy. The silence between them stretched until a soft voice cut through it. Mommy, I'm thirsty. The smallest of the 3, Ella, clung to Claire's hand, her voice barely above a whisper. Claire reached into her bag for a water bottle, but before she could twist off the cap, Ethan extended his hand. I got it. Claire hesitated, then handed him the bottle. Ethan crouched slightly, holding it out to the little girl. Here you go. Ella stared at him for a long moment before reaching out and taking it with small, delicate hands. It was a tiny gesture, but in that moment, it felt monumental. Noah still didn't trust him. But Lucas was willing to give him a chance, and Ella no longer looked at him like a stranger. It was a start. Ethan never thought a simple meeting could leave him feeling so exhausted. But he didn't stop. The next day, he returned to the park, then the day after that, and the one after that. At first, Claire kept her distance, watching from afar. She didn't interfere, but she didn't make things easier for him either. This was his battle to fight. Lucas was the easiest. The boy was a ball of energy, always dragging Ethan into new adventures, racing, climbing, exploring. Lucas embraced Ethan's presence without hesitation. Ella was more reserved, but slowly she began to warm up. She wouldn't speak much, but she would sit beside him when he read stories to the 3 of them. One afternoon, just as he paused to take a sip of water, a small voice spoke up. Uncle Ethan, can you keep reading? His heart clenched. Noah, as Ethan had expected, was the hardest. The boy kept his distance, always watching, always skeptical. When Ethan played with Lucas, Noah stood back with his arms crossed. When Ethan read to Ella, Noah pretended not to listen. But Ethan knew better. One evening, as Ethan walked them home, Noah suddenly spoke. Are you going to leave again? The question hit him like a punch to the gut. Ethan exhaled slowly, crouching down to meet Noah's gaze. No, buddy, I'm not going anywhere. Noah didn't react, didn't say a word. He just shrugged and walked inside. Ethan knew the boy still didn't trust him. But at least now, Noah was asking questions. It was a start, a crack in the wall. Ethan had thought things were getting better. He was wrong. That day, he had promised to take the kids to the aquarium after school. Lucas had been so excited he couldn't stop talking about sharks. Ella had picked out a blue dress to match the ocean. Even Noah, though he wouldn't admit it, had looked forward to it. But then work got in the way. An urgent meeting, a high-profile client who needed him immediately. Ethan told himself it would only take an hour. But by the time he was done, the sun had set. When he arrived at Claire's house, the door opened to reveal the 3 children. Lucas curled up on the couch, Ella clinging to her mother, and Noah. Noah looked at him with an expression Ethan would never forget. Cold, disappointed. "You promised." Noah's voice wasn't loud, but it was heavy. Ethan opened his mouth, but no excuse would be enough. Noah's hands clenched into fists. "You're just like before." Claire crossed her arms. Her expression wasn't angry. It was worse. It was tired. "Go home, Ethan." The door closed. The silence was deafening. Ethan sat in his car for what felt like hours, staring at the darkened windows of Claire's house. He had spent a year proving himself, yet in one moment he had undone it all. Ethan sat in his car, staring at the closed door in front of him. He had ruined everything. His phone buzzed. A message from his assistant reminding him of tomorrow's meeting. But for the first time, Ethan didn't care. This couldn't be how it ended. He stepped out of the car, walked up to the door, and knocked softly. Claire opened it, but instead of anger, her face held something else. Worry. Behind her, on the couch, Noah lay curled under a blanket, his face flushed with fever. Lucas and Ella sat beside him, their small faces etched with concern. Ethan's chest tightened. "What's wrong with him?" His voice was low, urgent. Claire sighed. "He's had a fever since last night. He's been exhausted all day." Without hesitation, Ethan stepped inside. "I'm staying." Claire hesitated for a second but didn't argue. That night, Ethan stayed by Noah's side. He changed cold compresses, held the boy's small hand in his own, reassured Lucas and Ella when they grew anxious. Near dawn, Noah's eyelids fluttered open. His voice was hoarse but steady. "You're still here?" Ethan squeezed his son's hand gently. "I told you, buddy. I'm not going anywhere." For the first time, Noah didn't turn away from him. The next morning, soft sunlight streamed through the curtains. Noah was still weak, but he was awake. Lucas and Ella sat on the floor, drawing messy little pictures while Claire poured 2 cups of coffee. Ethan sat across from her, his hands resting on the table, as if letting go would make this moment disappear. Claire looked at him, her voice softer than before. "You really stayed?" Ethan tightened his grip around his coffee cup and nodded. "I promised." A silence stretched between them, but this time, it wasn't heavy. Finally, Claire sighed, as if letting go of something she had been holding onto for too long. "Stay for breakfast." For a second, Ethan was caught off guard. This wasn't forgiveness. It wasn't a promise of anything beyond this moment. But it was a chance, and this time, he wasn't going to waste it. In the days that followed, Ethan kept showing up, not with promises, but with actions. He arrived early to help take the kids to school. He waited patiently for Noah to let him in, and one day, as they were leaving the park, the boy unexpectedly reached for his hand. It lasted only a moment, but it was enough. One evening, after walking the kids home, Ethan hesitated at the door. Claire looked at him, something softer in her gaze. "I don't know what the future holds," Ethan murmured, "but I know one thing. I'm never leaving again." Claire didn't answer right away. Then, slowly, she smiled. A real smile. "I know." And for the first time, when the door closed, Ethan didn't feel like he was being shut out. For the first time, he felt like he had finally found his way home. A year had passed. Ethan was no longer the man he used to be, the man trapped in work, ruled by fear. Now he was a father. He knew how to tie Lucas's shoelaces, that Ella needed a bedtime story to fall asleep, and that Noah would never openly say he needed him, but the silent nods, the quiet moments sitting together, were proof enough that he did. But there was still one thing left to do. He had to make things right with Claire. That evening, Ethan took Claire to the beach, the place where they had made some of their happiest memories. She stood quietly, watching the waves roll in, her expression distant yet serene. "Do you remember the first time we came here?" Ethan asked, his voice gentle. Claire smiled softly. "How could I forget?" Ethan took a deep breath before turning to face her. "I lost you once, and for the longest time I told myself it was for the best, that work, success, and control were all I needed. But I was wrong, Claire. I was so wrong. You were my home, and I walked away from it. I won't make that mistake again." Claire's breath caught in her throat as Ethan knelt down, a small velvet box in his hands. "I'm sorry for the pain I caused you. I can't change the past, but I want to spend my future making it up to you. Claire Evans, will you marry me?" Tears shimmered in Claire's eyes, but this time they weren't from pain. They were from joy. Yes. 3 months later, under the golden glow of a sunlit garden, Claire walked towards Ethan in a simple yet elegant white dress, their children standing by her side. Lucas beamed, Ella waved excitedly, and Noah, though trying to appear composed, couldn't quite hide his smile. As Ethan kissed Claire, the children erupted into cheers. This time, they were truly a family. And that was the story of Ethan, Claire, and their journey to becoming a family again. What do you think? Do you believe people can truly change for those they love? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories. Hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thank you for watching until the very end. See you in the next story.